What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for another Bracketology update on the final day of February. Yes, March is almost here, everyone. We are just 16 days away from Selection Sunday, and some conference tournaments are already kicking off. Next week, the major conference tournaments will all kick off in about 10 days or so. So in this video, not going to be predicting the entire bracket, as not much has changed from the last prediction on Monday, so be sure to check that one out after this one. But going to be going through the bubble and all of the updates that we have seen, some of my comments and opinions on Joe Lunardi's bubble and Jerry Palm's bubble of CBS here. And then I'll be going through all of the teams in the tournament from seeds 1 through 12, evaluating their current place in the bracket amidst their current schedule, and going to be giving some of my predictions for how they will end up here. So we started out here with Joe Lunardi's bubble, as you can see, and he's got Baylor slipping down to the last 4 byes. Baylor was a 7 or 8 seed consensus over the past few weeks, but now 3 straight losses, given that they were all pretty close. Lost by 7 to Arizona at home, then a horrible loss to Colorado, and then on Wednesday, lost by 2 to Cincinnati. That one was a really close game, gut-wrenching loss. But Lunardi has them in the last 4 byes, which would indicate here at the first spot they would be a 10 seed. I don't know about that. I feel like they should probably be last 4 in or maybe first 4 out. So I think they're closer to the cut line than Lunardi says. Then SDSU here, another big win for them in the Mountain West over New Mexico a few nights ago. And I think that puts them firmly in the tournament as it stands right now to get this bye. They've got 3 games left in Mountain West play, none of which are too difficult. So I think if they win all of those, then they are firmly clinched, but would certainly help them to get good results in the Mountain West tournament as well. Then you've got this Arkansas team who we definitely thought was out a week ago, but wins against Missouri and Texas, both at home, mind you, but that has them doing very nicely. But I'm still not sure about them being in the last 4 byes. I think this is some SEC bias here. I know that it's the best conference of college basketball by far, but worth noting that Lunardi, working with ESPN, they've got contracts to do all those games. So that's some of the tendency that I'm seeing here, is that the SEC is slightly overrated in Lunardi's work. And they have a sneaky trap game on Saturday at South Carolina. We obviously saw Texas lose big at South Carolina last week, so I definitely don't think that's off the board. I think that the Hogs need to win that game to shore up their position, and I don't know, things could get tricky in Columbia there. Then Nebraska, they lost yet another game. Remember, they lost to Penn State last week, and then they only put up 46 points against a Michigan team that seems to always be winning close. They won another close one on a buzzer beater last night against Rutgers, but Nebraska, they've got to get right. They've got Minnesota at home. That's a must-win game on Saturday, and then you play at Ohio State next Tuesday. That's going to be a great game for these bubble teams here, but I'm not sure about Nebraska's position and not sure that they should be in the last 4 byes. Then on the last 4 in Oklahoma, I definitely think that they should be out at this point. They had another loss to Kentucky at home. That was a great spot for them. And now going on the road tomorrow at Ole Miss, definitely think that they have to get that one done, even though they are underdogs at this current moment. And I just need to say that they are 4-11 in conference play. Yes, they were 13-0 out of conference and had some great wins, but 4-11, yes, a very tough SEC. And I know they did beat Mississippi State at home last Saturday, but they've got to win some more games or at least do well in the SEC tournament if they want to be in my opinion. Then you've got Indiana as well in the last 4 in. I kind of agree with this one. They did get a great win on Sunday against Purdue with that great second half effort here, but they do have the West Coast road trip going to Washington and Oregon. If they win both of those games, then they'll be firmly in the tournament. If they split, then not so much, probably right where they are right now. Then you've got Ohio State. As we mentioned, they do play Nebraska. That's their next game on Tuesday. Split their West Coast road trip with the LA schools, but they are just firmly right on this cut line, in my opinion. And then Texas, another disastrous loss. We mentioned that they lost at South Carolina. Then they lose close to Arkansas in spite of a great effort from Trey Johnson, dropping 39 points there. So they are in a serious predicament right now in this SEC, and worth noting that they do play Georgia. So those 2 teams, for the last team in, according to Lunardi, and the first team out, are playing tomorrow, and I think that is actually a good spot for Texas. Then we get to Georgia, who we thought was firmly out, but now they beat Florida at home. That was a great game. They led by 25 and then lose the lead with the last minute, but then go on an 8-0 run to reclaim it. So Georgia, yes, a great win, but I think that Texas game tomorrow will do wonders for their campaign if they do win that, and I definitely think that the loser is in a tough position there. Then North Carolina, I think that this team is vastly overrated at this point. Really just no notable wins, and I know that they have won some games in this ACC, but worth noting that they did lose to Wake Forest, who is in the next 4 out. They've been struggling a lot as of late as well, but I just do not think that this UNC team should be in the tournament right now or even close unless they beat Duke next Saturday or they do very well in the ACC tournament. And given the state of that conference right now, that probably means at least getting to the final, if not winning the whole thing there. Then we've got Boise. I definitely think that they should be in at this point. They got another great win against Utah State there, so just been racking up wins, and they have a pretty easy schedule to round out the regular season, although they do play at Colorado State next Friday. So we'll mold that. Definitely on track to getting a bid right now, but certainly would help them to win out and then do well in the Mountain West tournament. Then you've got Xavier here. here. Don't have any strong thoughts on them. Them and Villanova have kind of been picking up some wins against some subpar competition in the Big East, but definitely looking forward to some of their tougher games in the Big East to round out the regular season and then in the Big East tournament. Then Wake Forest, they have been really trifling right now, lost 2 in a row. Worth noting that they did beat UNC, as I said, and they beat SMU a couple weeks back, so that's interesting, but definitely not looking good with another loss this past week. And then SMU, as we mentioned, did lose to that Wake team and then beat Cal, but very close there. They only have, I think, 6 or 7 losses on the season, but just in this ACC conference, not good enough right now. And then Cincy sneaking in potentially here. They did get that win against Baylor, as I mentioned, and they do play Houston tomorrow. I think they at least keep that one close there. That is upset alert, in my opinion, for Houston. Villanova, as I mentioned, definitely going to have to win out in this Big East and do very well in the Big East tournament if they want an at-large bid there. So with that being said, now we get to Jerry Palm's last 4 in here, and I think that this one is much more accurate. Looking at the last 4 in, you've got Indiana. Note that net ranking of 57 is not very good there, but do have a decent resume right now. Definitely going to have to pick up some wins. He has Georgia in. I guess I agree with this one, but as we mentioned before, that Texas game going to say a lot about their chances. Great net ranking for them at 37 compared to these other bubble teams. He's got Boise State in, which I agree with, at 43 in the net. And then he's got Xavier in. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but given the weaknesses of these other bubble teams, I guess that makes sense. Maybe you want to consider another team like a Baylor, but I really take no issue with that. Then we go to the first four teams out, and this one drastically differs from Lenardi. You've got Texas here, 39 in the net, but they do have those 12 losses, so I can't get mad at that there. Then he likewise has UNC as just the second team out. I, again, vehemently disagree with that. I think that they should be much further down here. Then he has Baylor out, which is very surprising here. Yes, they have that 16-12 record, but 31 in the net. I think that you can split the difference between Lenardi and Jerry Palm's position. I think that they should be one of the last teams in. And then he has Ohio State here, 34 in the net as the 4th team out. Yes, they do have those 13 losses, but that Nebraska game next Tuesday will be huge for their hopes there. So with that being said, all those teams on the bubble, let's go through these teams at the top. So we get into Jerry Palm's bracket. Worth noting that Duke is not the number 1 overall seed, but he just puts the Eastern region team first, then Midwest, then South, then West here. So you can see that Duke, Florida, St. John's, and Purdue would all be in the East region. Duke plodding along in the ACC. They've got another game ahead of them against FSU. Nothing really to say there. Then Alabama, another big win for them against Mississippi State at home. Shot the lights out. Probably their best performance of the year so far, but a big date at Tennessee there. That's going to be huge for them, keeping the number 1 seed, and potentially Tennessee, if they win that, then they could sneak back into the number 1 seed ranks, but definitely a lot to be played for in the SEC as it stands right now. Then Auburn, definitely some distance between them and the other teams right now, sitting at number 1 in the net and the elite resume that they have with only 2 losses, but they play at Kentucky. That's going to be a very tough game. I believe they haven't won in Lexington since 1989, so going to be a big spot for them. They're going to be about 5 or 6 point favorites, and we'll see if they can get that one done there. Then you've got Houston, as I mentioned, a home game against Cincinnati. Houston did get a big win at Texas Tech to get some revenge for earlier this season, but that Texas Tech team was very injured, and Iowa State, who they beat at home last Saturday, was also down their top 2 scorers in that one. Then you've got Florida here, who gets bumped down to the number 2 line. Tough loss for them against Georgia, but a chance to rectify that against a decent but sliding Texas A&M team right now. Then you've got Michigan State at the 2 line against Wisconsin. Both of these teams as number 2 seeds. I'm not sure how I feel about that. The winner of this Sunday's game definitely stakes their claim as the number 2, but I definitely think that the loser will drop down to the number 3 spot there. I just think that this Big Ten conference has not been strong enough to get them 2 top 2 seeds there. Then you get to Tennessee, as I mentioned. Great home spot for them against Alabama. They were a 1 seed a few weeks ago, so we'll see if they can claim back their form there. Then you've got 3 seed St. John's here. Yes, only the 4 losses on the season, and great defensive team right now. We've kind of been seeing them as a 4 or 5 seed as of late, but now they are in the 3 seed and in that East region. That will be huge for them there, and we will see how they fare in the Big East tournament going forward. I definitely think that they could be a 2 if they win the conference tournament there. Then Texas A&M, they've been a stalwart at the 2 line for the past few weeks, but then a couple tough losses at home to Tennessee and Vanderbilt, not helping them out there, and they have this big date at Florida. That's not a great get-right spot for them there, but we'll see if they can put forward a good effort. Then Kentucky, as I mentioned, against this Auburn team. Kentucky kind of been sliding between the 3 and the 4 seed, definitely could solidify their position as a top 3 seed if they get a huge win there against Auburn, maybe go back up to the number 2 line if they win that one there. Then Michigan at the 3 line, I guess I agree with this one. They are 22 in the net, as you can see, so not great in terms of the analytics compared to these other top teams. They do play Illinois at home here, and I think that the Illini have a great shot to win that one in Ann Arbor. Just been getting some of these fraudulent results here. I don't think that they've won a game in the past few weeks by more than a couple possessions. I mean, that Rutgers finish really epitomizes their whole season thus far, but they do have Michigan State once again next weekend, and that will be huge in determining the regular season champion of the Big Ten right now. But I definitely could see Michigan sliding down to the 4 or 5 seed seed once some regression hits them in these close games. And then you have Purdue at the 4 line, and I'm not even sure if they deserve a 4 at this point with the 4 straight losses, but as a lot of you guys are seeing this video, that UCLA game has probably already been played. I expect a great effort from the Boilermakers there to get that one done over UCLA at home. Then Marquette here, they haven't been playing great as of late, but a good spot to get right against Georgetown on the road. Definitely needs to see some more out of them in this Big East tournament that is looming there, and they could potentially increase their seed after that. Then Iowa State down to the number 4 spot, and you see that they are ranked number 10 in the net. I definitely see that they could be a top 3 seed, if not a top 2 seed when it's all said and done here. They have a great spot to get right against Arizona. Obviously, remember the Caleb Love shot from half court to tie that game when those two teams played in Tucson earlier, and then the Wildcats end up winning in overtime there. And when they've been fully healthy, they've only lost one game, which was that classic at Maui Gym where they lose on a buzzer beater to Auburn there by 1 point. So I definitely think that the Cyclones team a little bit underseeded right now, but it does make sense with the recent results that they've had. Then you've got Missouri here at the 4 line. They've been playing pretty well, and they've got this game at Vanderbilt tomorrow, so we'll see if they can win that one. Always tough in the SEC. Then you get to the 5 line. Texas Tech slides. I definitely think that them, along with Iowa State, underseeded here. Great Big 12 teams. You see their net rankings, number 7 here. That's very strong, and they've got this game in Lawrence. It's not going to be easy, even against this Jayhawk team that has not been playing well right now, but we'll see if they can get that big win on the road there. Then you've got Oregon, who's back up to the 5 line. They were around here earlier this season because they did have the great non-con. Then they had a tough stretch in the Big 10 play, and we're down to the 8 or 9, but Jerry Palm has them all the way at 5, so this is pretty interesting there. Can't say I disagree with it too much. Then Clemson jumps up to the number 5 seed as well. They've just been winning a lot of these games against this ACC competition, which, yes, is inferior, but they did beat Duke at home there, but they've got a big one against Virginia on the road there. That's definitely a tough place to play. Then you've got Arizona at Iowa State here, and I again think that these Big 12 teams a little underseeded by Jerry Palm here, because I definitely think that Arizona could be a top 4 seed there. Someone has to lose this Arizona versus Iowa State game, but I definitely think punishing the Wildcats too much for that BYU loss at home. I thought that was a tough call that went against the Wildcats there, and they should have won that game, but nonetheless, they are there at the 5 line. Then at the 6 spot, you've got Memphis, just been winning a lot of their games in the American. Definitely could see them getting a top 4 seed if they continue to win and then win their conference tournament there. Then Kansas back at the 6 line. Really do not know where to put this team. If they have a strong ending to the regular season, potentially win the Big 12 tournament, definitely could see them being a 3 or a 4 seed. But if they continue their current run of play and let's say lose to Texas Tech tomorrow and an early exit in the Big 12 tournament, definitely could see them slipping down to the 7 or 8 line. So a lot of volatility there. Then Louisville, like Clemson, has been winning just a lot of these ACC games at this point, and definitely see them as a good contender to get this number 6 seed here if they can just keep winning. And then you've got Mississippi State. I think that they are slightly overseeded here. Yes, I know that they are playing this tough SEC schedule, but that was just a heinous showing in Tuscaloosa. Yes, a great Bama team, but we're never in that game there. So I definitely have to see some better results out of them, or else I think that they should be on the 7 or 8 line. I definitely think a team like Maryland should be seated above this Mississippi State team. This Maryland team had been on an absolute tear and then came all the way back from 9 points down in the last few minutes against Michigan State, and then got their hearts ripped out against the Spartans at home there. So I definitely think that Maryland should be a 5 or a 6 seed right now, and I do think that they've been putting in good work there other than that last result. Then you've got Ole Miss here at the 7 line. Can't really complain much about this one. As we mentioned before, good game against Oklahoma tomorrow. Then St. Mary's, they actually almost lost to LMU last night, but were able to get that victory. I think that if they win the WCC tournament, they should be a 5 or a 6 seed there. Then you've got UCLA playing at Purdue tonight. I think that the 6 or 7 line kind of makes sense for where this team has been playing right now, but we will see. Then Vanderbilt jumps up to the 8 line. I don't know about them going this high. I think they should still be at the 9 or 10 line, even though they did get that big win in Texas A&M. Big spot for them as well to get another big win at home in Nashville against Missouri. We know that they've been playing great at home this season. Then Creighton at the 8 line. Can't disagree with this one too much. At Xavier, a bubble team there. That will be a great game. Then you've got this Illinois team, as we mentioned, at Michigan. They were one of these teams that were a 3 or 4 seed a month or so ago. They got right against Iowa, so we'll see if they can get some good shooting progression to potentially knock off the Wolverines. And then you've got this BYU team who was on the bubble, and they got that big win at Arizona. Obviously beat Kansas as well, so I do think that this BYU team's surging right now. Surprised to see them at the 8 line, but I definitely think that they are good enough to qualify for that position. Then we get to the 9 seeds. UConn, not exceptional, obviously, but I definitely think that they are deserving of this seed here. Then you've got New Mexico. Definitely think that they are deserving of a 9 seed or better right now in the Mountain West. And then he's got SDSU and Utah State following them in the Mountain West there. Interesting to see those net rankings because SDSU ranked 49, but Utah State at 33. I'm not sure what to make of that, but definitely think that those Mountain West teams all deserve to be in there, and the 9 seed probably makes sense. Then you've got Gonzaga at the 10 line, but number 8 ranking in the net. So just an enigma there. They've just got to win these close games, got to beat St. Mary's in the WCC title and not slip up even this weekend at USF there, but we will see because that is a tough environment to play in there. Then you've got Nebraska here at the 10 line. We've already chronicled that. Interesting to see that they're 54 in the net, and then you get down to Oklahoma and West Virginia. Definitely do not think that Oklahoma is deserving of a 10 seed. Definitely think they're much closer to the bubble there. Then he's got Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, VCU at the 11 line, and then Xavier and Boise State as well. So I think that his bracket is probably a little bit fairer than Joe Lunardi's, but I still do see a little bit of overrating of the SEC there. Definitely don't think that they'll get 13 or 14 teams in. Think it's closer to 12, but we will see when it's all said and done there. So let me know your guys' thoughts on all of these seeds and the bubble down below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.